Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Science Cafe KL April 2021. Today we have a very special topic that talks about a Asian myth, or I would say a global myth regarding a food flavoring that we're very fond of as Asian. Now, today we have Dr. Fatima, who is a chemist from UITM. And before I bring our speaker today to talk about the chemistry of monosodium glutamate, I just want fellow audience here who is watching us today to click on slido.com and enter today's event code MSG. We are releasing a poll over there to get to understand who we're talking to for today's session. If you're more fond of QR code, you can take your mobile device, just scan the QR code and join the polling today. So please, if you're watching the stream right now, please let us know who you are and let us know what's the topic. So the poll will be ongoing throughout the whole session. So do keep in mind about the polling that we're having over here. So ladies and gentlemen, today's topic is MSG phobia, a consequence of flawed science. So how MSG has become such a global fear that people often claim that their food is MSG free, and in some way or another that food is somewhat healthier. And why is there such a global stigma or global perception regarding the effects of MSG and how it's added to our food? So today we are going to look into a decade long of science, decade long of research that started this whole MSG phobia. And today we have none other than Dr. Fatima Salim, who is a PhD in chemistry. She is a senior lecturer of chemistry at the Center of Foundation Study, University Technology Mara, UITM. She is also a research fellow at the Atta Nur Rahman Institute for Natural Product Discovery, UITM. She is a registered chemist and has been appointed as a committee member of the Organic and Biomolecular Chemistry Section, Malaysia Institute of Chemistry. Now, she is an active member of the Malaysian Young Chemist Network, Young Scientist Network, Academy of Science Malaysia, as well as a lifetime member of the Malaysian Natural Product Society. While her research has covered a broad spectrum of chemistry, she is trained in the structure, identification, isolation, elucidation of metabolites from plants and microbes. Now, today, Dr. Fatima is very fond of the public engagement. She is actively educating the public and addressing current and viral issues related to chemistry by using the trademark Ahli Kimia in her personal Facebook account, which to date has 16,100 followers. That's a lot of followers for a scientist. Her passion for cooking, which also makes it all the more credible for her to speak on today's topic, and her encouragement for her followers also inspired her to form the Facebook group Makmal Makanan, or in short we call it Mama. And in less than 1 year of existence, Mama has enlisted 27,700 members. Now, her visibility has also improved, and also her credibility as a chemist allows her to reach more public social media users. And whenever you Google Ahli Kimia, in one way or another, you'll probably see her name popping up on the Google search engine. So without further ado, allow me to invite Dr. Fatima to join us today. Dr. Fatima? Dr. Fatima, just say hi.
Hi, Assalamualaikum everyone. Good
Yes,
afternoon.
good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining Science Cafe. And
Thank you.
and for once, I think both of us are in our kitchen, just
Yeah.
to be in the mood of today's topic, which is about MSG. And again, the floor is yours again. The audience there who are watching us, do look at slido.com. Event code is tag MSG, and let us know who you are as our audience for today. So today, Dr. Fatima, we have around like a number of people who are undergraduates, who are also researchers. So, okay, we're drawing a scientific, enthusiastic group of people joining for your talk today. So without further ado, I will hand this session over to you, Dr. Fatima.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Science Cafe KL, for inviting me. Yeah, I actually, yeah, of course, Sean, for the kind introduction. That was long. Okay, so I actually prepared some slides, about 27 slides. Allow me to share to make it more interesting sharing, I guess. Okay, there you go.
Your slides perfect.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, today I'm going to share with all of you on MSG-phobia, which is a consequence of flawed science. Right. Oops, it's not moving. Let me try again. Okay, so before going further, let me introduce a little bit actually how this this sharing started. So it's actually started from my sharing at Facebook that was on early last year, because everyone was on just before the MCO. So I wrote this article because of the curious of my followers, and then suddenly I think early this year the article went viral again. So Sean contacted me to share on the MSG. Right, so that is the article. So before I wrote this article, I actually did some thorough study on MSG, because I'm a natural product chemist, so I was planning to apply grant on finding a natural food enhancer. So there is a plant called Sinahina cauliflora. So if you just search, it is actually traditionally been used at the Kalimantan as well as at the Borneo side for flavor enhancing of food. So they actually take the leaf of the plant, Sinahena cauliflora. That is the scientific name. The local name is what they call it. I forgot the name. It's okay. I don't want to stretch my mind. Okay. So I wrote the proposal. So in order to find the gap, because when you write the proposal, you must have a very good background, and then you must have a gap between the existing flavor enhancer, which is MSG, of course. It is cheap, and then now you are trying to introduce another things. I mean, another substance to replace the existing MSG. So I read a lot of articles, and then I come across with all of this misconception that actually happened towards the MSG. So finally, I just decided to include in the proposal. So this is actually to giving the perception of getting natural flavor enhancer from our heritage. So that is the grant, which is actually been approved by the UCS, which is internal grant actually from UITM Cawangan Selangor. So the project is currently running, and this is actually the page that basically where all of the chemistry and the scientific information that I share with the other admins. So you can go to the Makmal Makanan page there and join. We have hundreds of articles actually debunking myth and other things that related to food and its preparation. So I like to put disclaimer here. Okay, so of course this presentation is actually for educational purpose only. I do not endorse or promote any product discussed herein, because I'm going to talk about MSG and people know that it is related to Ajinomoto. But I'm saying here that this is only for educational purpose. I am an independent researcher. I didn't be sponsored, and this is actually solely to share knowledge, to share knowledge on the MSG and other related food. Okay. Okay, so let me introduce to you. I think everyone know monosodium glutamate, which is stand for MSG. This is the fact that I collected, right? So monosodium. Let me put some laser here to see it clear. Monosodium glutamate, okay, is MSG in a short form. It is actually the sodium salt of glutamic acid. So this glutamic acid is an abundance amino acid in the world. I will introduce to you later in our body as well. So it is only containing approximately 12% of sodium and 78% of glutamate. So this glutamate part is actually contributing to the umami, the fifth basic taste in our tongue. Okay, so why salt? So salt because it is readily dissolved in water. Because when you eat something, you cook basically our medium or the ingredient is water, of course. So we want the thing dissolved in water. That's why it is a salt. Okay, so yeah, it enhances natural flavor and palatability of the food. Particularly, it is popular in Japanese, Chinese, as well as in Sabahan cuisine. So, yeah, I'm a Sabahan, so I've been using MSG since my existence in the world. Okay, so yeah, the human body. I want you to know that the human body does not differentiate glutamate whether it is in the form of naturally present in the food or added MSG. So this is the structure. This is the glutamic acid. So when it been neutralized with a base, so it will form a salt. So salt means that you have this glutamate side with it, which is an ionized, and you have the sodium side. The way our body recognizes is actually this part. This is a glutamate. Okay. This is monosodium glutamate because you have the sodium part here, and this is the glutamic acid. Now, let's see how actually the discovery of MSG come into account. So MSG is first discovered in 98 by this Japanese biochemist, Kukune Ikada. So he was trying actually to isolate. Isolate means that you have a matrix of things and then you try to pick out. It's just like, digging out a golden needle in a haystack. So he tried to isolate and duplicate the savory taste of kombu. So kombu is this one. It is it's a seaweed actually. So this seaweed give a very distinctive savory taste towards our food. So it is an edible seaweed, of course, and it is a base for many Japanese soups. So that is the kombu. He found that when the glutamate was added to many savory foods, including meat, so you have the glutamate, he isolate that thing, he put in meat and then soup or certain vegetables, they would taste much more pleasant and savory than before. So it enhances the taste. After developing a process to stabilize pure glutamate, means that he developed a method to isolate and synthesize. It means that it is the monosodium glutamic is actually partly natural and partly synthesized. So I will show with you later. I will share with you later how actually MSG been produced in a commercial way. So yeah, it is in the form of ordinary salts, in the form of glutamic acid. So he patented it in 1909. Patent means that it is belong to the person, the person which is this biochemist. So they began to manufacture MSG under the name of Ajinomoto. So we have the Ajinomoto. Until now, we have plenty of other MSG producer, but still Ajinomoto is the one in the top. Okay, so Ajinomoto means that the essence of taste. So MSG quickly became an extremely popular condiment in Japan, and by in early 1920s, the product began to widespread in distribution at China and other Asian countries. And at America, okay, that is just after World War II, I think, the food producers, processors had also begun to add or to use MSG. So this is how actually MSG been produced. Okay, so they are using cassava or tapioca and as well as corn. It depends on how many bunch of these natural things that the food can be obtained. And also they also took from sugarcane. So what is actually extracted from cassava, corn, and sugarcane is the starch, is the sugars. So the starch means that you have a long chain of glucose unit. I mean, all the glucose unit been put together, and then you have that particular starch. For sugarcane, is the molasses. So molasses means that you have the thickness color that is due to the tannin that containing inside. So because I'm a chemist, so I really love to know what is actually causing the color, what actually caused the structure become longer. So I will speak. I mean, I will just chip in a little bit on the chemistry side here. Okay, so what happened next? This starch that been extracted from either cassava, corn, or sugarcane was converted into sugar. Means that it is being cut. You have a long chain of starch, and then it been cut into small portion, which is a glucose. So this glucose is giving the sweet taste, right? So the glucose been given to microbe. So here the microbe that been used is actually glutamic acid bacterium. the name of the microbe specifically. So this microbe, they produce enzymes. So the enzyme is going to convert the glucose into glutamic acid. So this is through fermentation process. So if you can see here on the right side, I just want to give you more ideas on how actually the glutamic acid been made. So the way it's been illustrated is like this particular bacteria is eating the glucose, right? So actually it's producing enzyme, and the enzyme convert glucose into glutamic acid. So this is the glutamic acid that been obtained. It is actually same in the way of making yogurt. So we have the milk. So the acid, lactic acid bacterium converted the lactose. So lactose is another type of sugar. We have glucose, a simple sugar. So the lactose in the milk actually, this particular bacteria converted lactose into lactic acid. That's why you have the, curding in the yogurt that we have now. And of course, because it is an acid, it has a sour taste. So this is the natural part where actually the MSG been produced, and they add a little bit extra method, which is actually neutralizing. So neutralizing, if you still remember your basic chemistry, so you need to add acid with a base to neutralize, and they're going to form salt. So salt is readily dissolved, okay, in water, of course. Sorry. So this is the glutamic acid added with sodium hydroxide, through the neutralization and crystallization occur, and they purify. They purify means that they remove the excessive part of the glutamic acid and the sodium hydroxide, and they got the monosodium glutamate. So the monosodium glutamate in the form of the crystals been marketed in the form of product, just like the one that I have here in my hand. Okay, this is 70 grams of MSG. Now, so glutamate in diet, other than having it in a form of pure, it's just like you didn't want to consume too much of guava or orange to get the vitamin C. So the manufacturer help you to extract or to isolate or to remove the vitamin C or ascorbic acid and put in a form of capsule of 500 or 1000 milligrams, so you can take it directly. You don't have to eat so many orange or guava itself. So this is actually happening for the glutamate, because as I said before, the glutamate is originally obtained from the seaweed itself. So this scientist, he removed it, isolated, and they got that thing, he synthesized, and then we have in the form of natural like this, all right? So other than it become a capsule, it is actually in the form of powder. It's not a powder, it's a crystal, of course. Okay. So glutamic acid in a diet, of course, in the dietary protein itself from chicken, they also have a glutamic acid, but it is in a form of, in a form of chain, means that you have the protein, it is a backbone of the protein. So since it is part of the protein backbone, it wouldn't give you the umami taste, because the glutamic acid in that particular form is bonded. Means that it's bonded, it's supposed to be free. So when it is free, it can form bond with your tongue, so you can feel the umami taste. But since it is not free, so it's by adding a little bit of salt itself, so it can give you enhancement of the taste. Okay. And we also have, this is in a form of free glutamate in a food. So we have in tomato. That's why if we cook, we put tomato, and the longer you cook the tomato, the more savory the taste that you're going to obtain. So you add a little bit of salt, which is sodium chloride. So the sodium going to interact with the glutamate inside, and there you go, voila, your glutamic acid. So an ounce of tomato, of course, there is about 250 to 750 milligram of glutamate content. And that's also true for Parmesan. That's why Parmesan cheese is very delicious. It's because it contains high amount of glutamic acid. We have mushrooms, corn, these scallops, only a little bit of salt already boost the taste. Okay, and then we have chicken, of course, as I said before, beef, and the tomato. And of course, the breast milk, which is for for the kids, the baby to drink is also containing abundance of glutamic acid. It is more than estimated, more than 50% of total. So that's why the milk is very delicious. The taste of the milk going to be vary. It depends on the diet of the mother, because anything that been eat by the mother going to be converted. It depends on how actually it's been absorbed into the intestine, the small intestine. So that's going to give different flavor, colors of the breast milk. So this is a dietary glutamate intake from MSG, which is in this crystal form. So I tried to find formulation, but I didn't. I'm not lucky to find any of that. Most of the infographic that prepared by the KKM or other agency related to food is most of them are sodium. So sodium is more, is more concerned than MSG actually in Malaysia and as well as Asia, right? So in countries of European, United States, this is the amount that been consumed, and the higher amount that be consumed is actually from China. That is 3.8 gram up to 6.8 gram, which is including the soy sauce. All of the soy sauce. Of course, we know that soy sauce is also obtained from fermentation. So we're going to have the sodium glutamate inside. They naturally obtained through the fermentation process just now. Okay, so we know that China and all these Oriental, they are very, they are using fermented food thoroughly. So that's why they are consuming more. Okay, and by comparing the MSG that from the crystal, from the isolated in the clear form here, the total natural sources that been consumed actually every day is about 10 to 12 grams for food without the MSG. Okay, so I would like to talk a little bit on the importance of glutamate, because I said before it is abundantly found in the nature and in our body as well. It is unessential amino acid, means that we don't have to take it from the outside. It is already there in our body, right? So it is an ubiquitous amino acid found in nature. It's everywhere. Ubiquitous means it's everywhere, right? It is present as a free amino acid in most organ and tissue. It is an important substrate in energy metabolism, amino acid, and protein synthesis, as well as glutathione synthesis. So glutathione is our natural antioxidant inside our body. So, sorry. So production of glutamate from glucose in the brain that act as an excitatory neurotransmitter. So it is actually a spark plug, means that if you want to light something, you need to have the glutamate. So this glutamate going to connect between these two regions inside our brain and inside our body as well. So this is just like the glutamate. It is a neurotransmitter, just like serotonin, dopamine, and then GABA, and then endorphin. All of these neurotransmitter that responsible to give the excitement in our body. So of course, it is about talking about the one that in our test just now. So it is a signal umami test in the oral cavity. So for post-ingestive effect on the digestive process, it helps in the nutrient absorption and metabolism and energy homeostasis via vagal nerves activation. So this is actually, I just put some part of the tongue sensory that we have. So we have sweet taste, which is due to sugars, particularly glucose, lactose, and then you have the fructose, naturally found in food. Okay, and then that is the signals that been used in umami. During writing my proposal, of course, I need to know these receptors, because I plan to do some docking study, means that I need to dock the compound that I propose to have, or in the literature found from the plant that we have, to see the interaction between the compound or the chemical, natural chemicals that we have from the Sinahena cauliflower just now, how actually it dock or respond or react with this particular sensory of umami. So also we have bitter and as well as this fat. So they are all actually related to taste perception. Okay, so I was talking about flawed signs. So studies reporting adverse effect. So this is the one that I put in the conclusion, because you can hear everywhere people saying that MSG is dangerous. MSG is giving you, going to terminate your brain. MSG going to give you headache and so forth. So this is the things that actually I collected from all the studies. What I said here related to this flood science is they are using injection. So you know, you have an MSG with high concentrations, maybe half of this thing dissolved in a liquid, and then they take it, just inject to your body. And this is now not actually how we consume MSG. The way we consume MSG is not in this much amount, it's only in a small amount. And then we put it inside our mouth. It needs to go through our digestive system before it been processed or metabolized inside our small intestine. I will show with you how actually the MSG being metabolized or converted chemically inside our body before it been removed. All right. So it been injected. Okay, injected into animal brain directly. This is actually the purpose of doing this is actually to overcome the blood-brain barrier, to make it go inside there, to make the brain become toxic. Okay, toxified by the MSG. They also use injection into animal body by overcoming the GI barrier. I mean, without going through our GI barrier there. And they are using extremely higher doses, which is impossible to achieve. I'm saying here that it is not rational to do that, right? And the way actually this particular food the MSG been given towards the studied animals, or to the studied animal, which is a rodent and monkey as well, the administration after fasting without food to eliminate normal effect of food. Because when you eat in a food, you're going to have a complex matrix of things or chemical inside there. So this MSG going to combine or dilute it with the other food constituent. But the way they give it, they make the animal fast, and then they just inject or just put it at the high dose. So this will cause, toxicity. And I'm going to tell you, if you eat or you take too much of sugar, or you take too much of water itself, it also can toxify your body. So here the dose make it different. The dose make it poison. Okay, and the other special case is actually due to individual and case report observation. Okay, so I'm going to share you some of the published work that started in giving fear mongering towards using of MSG. So it started from this paper. Actually, this scientist, which is Olney, he actually published more than 25 papers or research related to MSG, but all of the observation was flawed. All right. So again, what I said just now is they give to neonatal mice, which is about 2 to 8 days of after birth, and then they actually administered this particular small mice into MSG. Just inject the MSG into the skin, and the dose that been applied is 2 to 5 grams. That is too high, 2 to 5 grams. And if you converted the dose here, I think what happened to the mouse is actually they become saturated and they become a blood, just like that. Right? If you converted this into food or normal people eating of 50 kilogram men, it is about 100 to 250 gram at one shot. You just take it 100 to 250 gram at one shot to drink it or take it inside your body. Of course, that will cause a toxifying effect. So as I said before, this is 70 gram, and we are talking about 100 and 250. I'm going to take this, dissolve in water, I just drink it. I'm not going to do that. So this is how actually the flawed science come into account. I still remember my mentor from US when we are talking about some plants, because we are natural product chemists, and then we actually try to give identity to plant when the plant been consumed or used to relieve symptom related to diabetic. So we tested on the mouse. We give about 200 milligram. So when you say 200 milligram per kilogram of mouse, it is not active at all, because you need to convert that to normal human consumption. It's supposed to be less than 100 milligram. Okay, and now we are talking about gram. So what happened here is the damage in the nucleus. So the hypothalamus brain of this particular small mice become damaged. So this is the result that been referred at the beginning, which stopped the use of MSG globally. And of course, when scientists try to just telling people that we obtain this particular result, and the media as well, they exaggerate the data, and this will cause more phobia towards the society. Okay, and then after a year, I think another study been done. This is more at the higher pre-med research that been done on the glutamic acid, and they found out that there are no liaisons at high primates, and of course, MSG does not cause toxicity, especially in the brain of a small, creatures like the mice just now. So this is another publication that actually debunked the previous search by the other group that using unrational amount of MSG concentration to be given, and of course in the form of injection, okay, towards the mice. Okay, so this is how actually, to give an idea, this is how MSG entered into the blood. Right, so I did some study because most of the followers and other people, they said that they still have the headache, and then they cannot eat the MSG, and then when they took too much, or they eat outside, this effect will they encountered. So I did some study or research how actually the flow or the metabolism of the MSG at our entire body. So it started from the mouth, of course, because it is it is mixing with our food. Okay, so it will go into our small intestine, and more than 95% will be absorbed at the small intestine. Means that the metabolism or the MSG will be converted chemically into other substance. Okay, so it will be used as an energy source, which is an ATP, as well as for protein synthesis. Some part of it, of course, 6% will be absorbed in the small intestine, into the blood vessels, and then go into the liver. So that will be converted into another amino acid. And very little will be inside the blood, unless you have a problem maybe in your intestine metabolism, means that you have a problem with your digestion. So if you take too much, the concentration is too much, maybe some will be leaked into the blood system. So you really need to understand yourself. If you are kind of people that easily sick, or you kind of people that have this digestive problem, so you shouldn't consume MSG much in larger amount, the way that it consumed or used in the product. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you another Flawed science actually were started at the late of 1980s. So this is Robert Homan Koch. So he's a biomedical researcher. He actually living at the US. So he is actually a descendant. He came from China, okay, and then he lived at the US for so long and working as a biomedical researcher. So he went to this Chinese restaurants, and then he eat a lot of this thing. This food, many types of other food, and then he encountered some, troubles in chest pain, flushing, headache, numbness, and sense of facial pressure, as well as sweating and sweating. So what he did, he actually wrote to the editor of New England Journal of Medicine, describing his self-diagnosed cause of peculiar illness he contacted at the Chinese restaurant. So he named it as a Chinese restaurant syndrome. It has actually a long story. So from my reading and from the review as well, so I found out that actually it started from joking. So they were just the editor joked with their Robert, and then they were saying that it may be a Chinese syndrome, and then Robert said that probably it's not an MSG, it might be due to the sodium and potassium, or histamine content, because Chinese food most of them are fermented or preserved, so we have that histamine content in a higher concentration. And of course, at that time, because at the beginning of the manufacturing of monosodium glutamate, the manufacturer, they suggested that in order to get the umami or the pleasant taste of the MSG, you have to put about 4 to 6 grams in a bowl of soup if you want to get that pleasant taste. So that is actually a lot, because that time everyone was so excited. The savory taste been discovered. Everyone want to use it, and it gives you a pleasant taste, and this is extraordinary. So people are abusing it. I'm saying the terms of abusing because at that time the Chinese restaurants are using high concentration of MSG. So when he wrote that thing, and then it been affected, and from here, uh, uh, unlucky perhaps. So the everywhere in the news it become a headline saying that Chinese restaurant give you a toxic effect on your body, so you shouldn't eat this one. You should avoid this one. So it become like more to cultural, because that time we know that Chinese food is not only associated with the MSG, but also with the exotic food, where they took the dog and then snacks, and some of the meat that they process are actually from dog, but they said that it is a pig or other meat. So this is started the perception, or actually what the it's not misconception. Oh, I lost the word. I didn't want to use it. Okay, anyway, so it started from this guy Robert Holman Cook, okay, articles to the editor. Okay, so finally it found that many people do experience unpleasant symptoms after eating, and particularly after eating food associated with different culture. Of course, if I suddenly take food from at the beginning, because I'm from Sabah, so I came here to the peninsula. I think that was on at the middle of 2002. In 2002. So I started to eat most of the food that I actually put with chili. So I have for the 2 weeks, I have a stomach ache non-stop because of all the food are very spicy in the form of, because as Sabah, of course, we also eat chili. But here, it likes it somehow everything be put, at all the food, I mean the cook, the way the food been cooked is with chili. So that give me the continuous stomach ache. So of course that is, if you correlate to the things that we know here, that is of course due to physiological changes. Okay, so this is the Chinese restaurant syndrome. So after that particular study, a lot of other study been done continuously, and double blind placebo control. So they have a placebo control, and they have a double blind. This is a multi-challenge evaluation. They found out that there is no effect. So the MSG do not produce any adverse effect when it is combined with food. You don't take simply MSG alone. You need to combine it with food, right? So if it is put in a large concentration, of course, it wouldn't give you that particular effect. And interestingly, those who took placebo means that they have a part of the one that we put with the MSG and the other put with actually without the MSG. So those who also consume the one that without the MSG also experience the same effect. So that is actually more to that is more to xenophobia, because they know that the research been done based on MSG. So that in the mental, you have your brain chemistry, you already put in your mind that you are drinking or you are eating MSG. So although actually you don't have an MSG there, but you also experience that headache. So that's why the FDA concluded that the MSG itself, it didn't it wouldn't produce a particular effect. Okay, but we know that there are many activist food that they don't really understand the science behind, and they are actually they are actually been covered by the other scientists which have the xenophobia towards the MSG as well. So they are referring to that particular research only. So the US been forced, actually, I mean the FDA been forced by these activists until now. It's until now happening until now. They've been pressured so much. So the but still FDA have their own stand that MSG is still safe until now. Okay, so another study. There are plenty other studies that related to MSG, which is for the asthma and other allergy as well. So this particular study proves that it is wrong. Okay, and then another study that said MSG are related to consumption. Consumption of MSG are related to obesity rate, and yeah, the study done by he et al. Association of monosodium glutamate intake with overweight in Chinese adult. So this is the reported studies, and then 2 years later, another studies found that it is actually not associated to the MSG itself, right? Okay, so the research continues and reviews continuous, and yeah, as I said now, since we know that MSG is safe, if you want to write a proposal saying that MSG is unsafe, that's why you want to find another substituent for the flavor enhancer. It wouldn't help because it is actually solid, telling us that MSG is safe. So yeah, I actually encountered this paper. It is a very interesting paper. If you want, I will share with you later. This is a paper, is a paper actually sharing all the history behind MSG, from the Chinese restaurant syndrome, all the research, all the debug, and all the outcome until now. So this is a paper actually wrote by this Lan Mosley. So he is actually an historian of food, indigenous health, and settler of colonialism from Canada, because we know Canada are very strict in the food intake and the the consumption, and then all the glass cookware. So they are very strict. They are among the strict. But this is done by this researcher. So he said that, of course, how early actually the study of MSG were due to the wide spheres of MSG-phobia. So the findings were inherently flawed and obfuscated by xenophobia. So because people are very scared of Chinese practice of this exotic eating, so they are actually have that particular phobia. All right. So the particular debate about the surface of the number of widely held, it is actually based on assumption. So assumption of relating to the Chinese cooking. All right. So this is eating of the way of Chinese cooking, which is you have many when they've been associated as well is bad, a snack, dog. So this is beyond American popular consciousness. So they found out that MSG, if it is put in other food, I mean not Chinese food, it is safe to consume, or it wouldn't give you the side effect. But if MSG is put in the Chinese food, it was somehow less safe than what it been used in the other product. So yeah, this is an interesting paper. It's about 20 pages, I think, for you to read. If you want, I will give you later for this one. Yeah. So it concluded everything very nicely. Now, for the safety database of MSG, yes. So extensive toxicological database exists, because some of my followers as well, they said that there is no study being done on MSG because some people said that it is safe, the other people said it is dangerous. Actually, there are a lot. So I listed all of these, the distinguished journals where actually published this extensive toxicological data on the MSG, which concluded again it is safe. It is safe to consume. So it is not easy actually. How the risk been done is in order to get the risk, I mean, how actually MSG can give you the risk, it must be the hazard and times the exposure. I mean, how much that you eat, where you eat, how many, and with food, and this particular hazard that can cause harm to you, that will give you the risk. So it is not simply done, okay? So it is thoroughly done, and it is been established well that MSG is safe. Okay, so other than that, okay, do you know that there is actually an International Glutamate Technical Committee Association? So I was just searching, I found this one. So it is a scientific non-profit organization. It is under the Union of International Association. You see how people people fear, the phobia towards the MSG initiated this particular non-profit organization. So they actually consist of 6 regional bodies, so from 13 countries around the world. So they support glutamate research. So they actually provide some research there now if you want to do a research, but they are of course independent of any manufacturer of MSG. So it is in the field of physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology, as well as toxicology. So they share scientific and regulatory information on glutamate and its salts to national and international regulatory authorities, right? So they address in scientific regulatory question on glutamate safety. Anything related to glutamate, they have the information. They have the abundance of data that everyone is searching for. So all the things that left now is actually read. So it's ICRO. You need to read. For me, until I was, writing the proposal, I don't know this much of this thing. So they also promote the uses of glutamate as food ingredient. So this is under the SDG of, I think, food safety as well as hunger. So they are actually promoting that one. Okay, so this particular organization is approved and supported by the World Health Organization, FDA, and other food organization as well. So now, what do actually major regulatory agencies say about MSG? So I'm starting from Malaysia, okay, because we are at Malaysia. So in Malaysia, Akta dan Peraturan Makanan 1985, they classified MSG as a flavor enhancer. So it is in line with salt and common pepper. This is the common pepper that we are using. So we have the white pepper and the black pepper. They are put together in line, all right? So they are safe as you are eating this one. So you don't just have to put too much. It's a little just enough in a form of moderation. Okay, and we have other organization here. So this is the joint with full expert committee on food additive. This is also international. So they put it is an ID not specified, means it is not harmful. Then other as well until here. So MSG is approved in many food categories at GMP level. So you can, this is best, I want to highlight here is because some people will say that this scientist been paid by the manufacturer or the producer of MSG. No, at this particular organization, they have different expertise. So they have the scientists, they have the chemists, they have the biochemists, they have the activists, many committee inside there to decide. They, of course, the energy, the table going to have a higher energy, everyone going to debate on that, but finally it will end with a conclusion based on the data that we have finally. Right? So yeah, so the market as well, because they go with the MSG phobia is actually until now is happening. So they want to entertain people which is scared of this MSG. So due to the pressure by the consumer, activists, and some special individual continues to experience side effect. Of course, as I said before, maybe that is because of they have the problem in their digestive system, because we know that almost 97% of the 94% of the MSG is actually converted or metabolized. Metabolized means they convert from that side to another part of the molecules. Okay, so it is happening at the small intestine. So those who have the problem there, probably the MSG leak into their blood and then cause that particular side effect. Okay, so this because of that particular pressure, so the food standard require MSG. So there are 2 codes actually on the MSG based on the HS code and the E numbers, which is E621. So they enforce to put the label so in the packaging, but you don't have to worry because it is just like peanut and gluten, because some people are also allergic towards peanut and gluten, so they also put there in the food packaging. If you encountered, if you look at the packaging, they will put there that it may contain traces of peanut or gluten, it may contain MSG, right? So they because of that phobia, so of course they put the sign of no added MSG or MSG free, but actually, as I said before, you also have natural MSG inside the food, and our body, it cannot distinguish whether it is obtained as natural or in a form of this thing. So it will be treated similarly. Okay, similarly, there will be no difference. right? But this, of course, because they want to entertain the consumer, right? And there are plenty of product there containing MSG, and because of that phobia, the scientists as well try to find another substituent to substitute this MSG. So you're going to see another flavor enhancer that called disodium inositol or disodium guanylate. So this is another substituent that gives pleasant taste, similar like an MSG. Okay, so I want to summarize, right? So yeah, but industrially, the manufactured MSG has been consumed safely for over 100 years. Glutamate are naturally found in food, so you don't have to worry. It's there. If you didn't take it in the form of this one, you don't want to take it. It's up to you. It's up to you if you want to mix so much of the, tomato. For me, if I put tomato ready in my cooking, I wouldn't put MSG because I know there's ready and flavor enhancer inside my food. Okay, so of course the human body, again I say, it does not differentiate between the glutamate, whether it is obtained naturally or it is actually from the added MSG. Okay, and all the global regulatory agency, as I mentioned before, they considered MSG as safe, right? Safe ingredient. And for the particularly for the US committee, the one the FDA just gave a guideline to take about 0.55 gram of MSG per day. That is from the external source. I mean, from the added MSG. It's not from the natural sources. So that is the maximum that been suggested by the FDA because of the pressure of the activists as well. So good thing about MSG, if you use it, it is actually can reduce the intake of sodium. Yeah, because it contains about 12% of sodium. So if you put this one, the sodium channel or receptor inside the tongue will be slightly diluted. So it will reduce the take of the sodium. And then, of course, the glutamate function have a function in the psychological function. Okay, that one is from a thorough study. You can find abundance of paper giving this one. It's up to you with which particular that you want to choose, whether you want to choose the one with Flawed or you want to choose the right science behind it. So it helps actually in the digestive process because we have a receptor of glutamate inside our stomach. So it can help in the digestive process in the protein, because protein is digested inside our stomach, of course. And it is also have nutrient absorption and metabolism, right? And it is help in the energy homeostasis because it is converted into ATP, right? So finally, MSG is safe to be consumed, right? And I like to share this one. This is actually shared by one of our senior at the Malaysian Natural Product Society WhatsApp. So I just want to share with you again. So this is the Flawed science. Okay, so the Flawed science is actually I analyze like this, a tank. So it is a leak. So there is some rain. I mean, the water is nozzling coming out there, and the social media or the layman people are only looking at this small hole. So when they look at this small hole, they thought that it is raining. So because they didn't look at the whole picture, the overall picture. Okay, so he said it is raining. Now you lied to me. I can't see it at all from here. But the science look at the bigger picture. So science we look at all the aspects, so all the outcome of the data been thoroughly reviewed to see and to give conclusion to you, to make sure that all of us here are taking things in a right way, right? So yeah, this is very nice actually. But I like to end. This is for myself. So indeed, various researchers and scientists have debunked the myth that MSG consumption is detrimental to health. But the fear and misconception of MSG is still exists until today. Until today, if you still find, you see that if you go to the article that I share with you, it almost 4,000 been shared, but you still can read some, comments that sharing about the flawed science that they found and other that is because of the other influencers out there are also saying that MSG is not safe. So while the false connection are fairly innocuous for most consumers, some still claim that they feel negative side effect after consuming the dishes including MSG. So that might be due to the digestive system problem, or maybe that is because of the xenophobia of your brain chemistry, because you think that that is the way. In the Sabahan, you said that dari kau saja tu. So means that if you think that way, it will happen that way. All right. So we all make choices about how we eat. Okay. Some prefer an organic and other avoid high fat food. But when it comes to food, there is no right and there is no wrong choice. But it is useful to understand the origin of those choices. Means it's up to you, because it is food. It is not medicine. So it is food. So when it is food, it's up to you what you want to choose. For the MSG, of course, the choice appeared to have been less influenced by science, as I share with you. So next time, if you eat any delicious food, judge the dish on its presentation, the smell and the taste, not because of the inclusion of the MSG, because that's going to change the way of your thinking. Right. So yeah, finally, I'd like to end a little bit on where actually I came from. So I'm a senior lecturer at the Center of Foundation Studies to share with you. This is UiTM Dengkil. So it is called the campus beside the lake, because we have a lake here. So this is the administration office. So it is dedicated for foundation studies. So I'm teaching all the foundation chemistry. That's why luckily it's easy for me to understand all sort of chemistry. You know, the organic chemistry, the physical chemistry, and all other types of chemistry. So this is the building. Now, other than being a senior lecturer at UiTM Dengkil, I'm also a research fellow. So my weightage is more to research actually at UiTM Puncak Alam. So this is a campus at Puncak Alam, right? So yeah, our institute, Atta-ur Rahman Institute, is located at this building. It is FF3 at level 9. So if you encountered into this roundabout, the curse is actually pointing towards our institute here, but we also have the signboard here indicating the institute. So yeah, feel free if you want to do some collaboration, and then I'm in the middle of doing some research related to umami. Of course, we are using MSG as the standard for our flavor enhancer from the plant just now. Okay, so yeah, you can email me as well, and you can scan that QR code to know my research background. So I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima. I felt I've attended a full lecture from the history to the origin to the current trends and probably misconception about MSG. I think a lot of people benefited knowing that MSG is a compound that is extracted from a natural source and it's available everywhere. I think generally there was also a lot of history behind it, where I think you bring us back to memory lane, how the whole Chinese restaurant syndrome started, and how the experiment in the beginning was inducing really highly concentrated amount of glutamate, which became intoxication. I think people also would get intoxicated by drinking water if they drink too much. So I think this is a clear example. Like when you were thinking of the 50 gram for, like, I don't know, 100 gram of glutamate injected on a mice, similar to how a man is. This is like 35 gram of pepper. And for a lot of us here, of course, if we are cooking, we won't add this much pepper or MSG into a single dish, let alone in one bulk. And so I think that was a really good analogy of showing that the previous comparison is out of proportion. And today I just want to thank Doctor for sharing that perspective from a science perspective. But again, for all the audiences out there, we have a Slido. So I think Dr. Fatima and myself would appreciate some feedback from you guys. So if you have your mobile device, key in the URL slido.com and enter the event code MSG. So while we are doing our Q&A, please let us know your feedback towards today's topic. Do you understand more about MSG after hearing Dr. Fatima's talk? Do let us know in the polling live. So we have some questions. So I'm gonna be in a neutral position, and I'm gonna ask questions from both sides, whereby some people who are a bit undecided about MSG and people who are still fearing of MSG. So let's start with the fear first. So assuming there were audiences that were still very fearful of MSG, is there something being done about people, just as how they are allergic to gluten? Are there such a thing as people being sensitive to MSG, like their taste bud just can taste the MSG-ness in food or things like that? Is there a study being done? And I think you mentioned it earlier in the slides, but I think it's good to remind everybody, is there a recommended dose of how much MSG can a person have? So maybe you can touch on that. Is there such a thing as being MSG sensitive, and how much MSG is recommended in a day?
Actually, on the sensitive side, yeah, there's a study, plenty of study, talking about the sensitivity of people towards the MSG. But as I said before, that is might because of they have problem with their digestive system. So when your digestive system you have problems, so the MSG might be linked. Linked towards your blood vessel, so that will give you the effect as well. So that's why we really need to understand our health condition. Right? If you are sensitive towards that, you don't have to take it. We're not going to force you to take MSG. We just want to correct the perception that you have now that the MSG-phobia is actually a consequence of the flawed finds that been tell about, I think, 50 years ago, but now we are at 2021, so we need to correct the perception. So I said, as I said before, you cannot control those who are putting too much of MSG at the restaurants. But at your home, it's up to you to control. Just put a little bit. That is enough. If you want. If you don't want, it's up to you. But you don't condemn those who are taking MSG. Right? You don't condemn them. Right? So come again to the second question just now.
How much is too much? I think that was also a lot of the people. Even I think we have a question from Harinesh. I think his question was very long, but I think to address the second question first, the ideal threshold of MSG amount in food where we should not surpass in our cooking based on your knowledge and experience.
I think it depends, because he mentioned the terms of threshold, because everyone have their own threshold, For me, so far I don't have problem consuming MSG because I'm a Sabahan and we do consume MSG in our food. We didn't take sugar because when I come to Peninsula Malaysia, they are replacing to balance the taste, because they want to balance the taste of the food. They are putting sugar instead of MSG. So comparing MSG and the sugar, you see the proportion. MSG is very low compared to the sugar itself. So the threshold is difficult to tell. So as I said just now, you have to know your own body. So you try it. You don't judge the food by the MSG content, but judge the food from the taste. Okay, so that is actually how you're going to experience it by yourself. I don't have any limit that I used before. Of course, I everything I do in moderation. That's why. All right. So at the FDA, we are talking about the FDA because of the pressure that I said just now. So the limit that been given for US people only, because if you still remember just now, the Robert Kwok, he is actually a Chinese descendant. So he said he been taking MSG at China before. He eat everything, but it didn't happen to his body. But why it happened in America? So they actually concluded that that is based on localized for American only. Right? So when it is put in Chinese food, then you're going to get that effect. But if MSG put in other food, so with the Mexican food or other food, it wouldn't give you that effect. So that is, the brain chemistry itself. But yeah, FDA just give, from my reading, is 550 milligram. The added one, the one that we put in the MSG. But together with the natural everything, I don't think there is a limit for that. Yeah, of course, because some of the people, they will say that, like, you want to take sugar, you compare white sugar and you compare with the brown sugar. So brown sugar will have slightly lower GI index compared to the white sugar. That is because the white sugar is pure, means that your body don't have to struggle to separate everything. It's already there. It's absorb everything. But if you have the brown sugar, you have the molasses, you have other things inside there, the minerals. So your body try to to struggle a little bit to digest that thing. So that will increase the blood glucose level slightly slower compared to the white sugar. So that is also true for honey, because some people they like to substitute with honey, but it's up to you. For me, if I just want to make a tea, I just want to use the white sugar because I want the taste of the sugar. I didn't want to taste of the molasses. I didn't want to taste of the other organic acid that contain inside the honey, because you have different variety of taste because due to different chemicals, natural chemical inside there. So yeah, that is what I can say so far.
Mm. And I think you also mentioned in the earlier slide that some of our natural source of glutamate has even higher dose of glutamate than MSG itself. So without us realizing, even if we don't add that 500 milligram of added MSG, we are already consuming glutamate from a natural sources, and we don't even know about it. I think that's quite shocking when you show even breast milk has MSG, even what else? Tomatoes and even seaweed. Those are like known natural stuff that we all consume that are safe, and those are natural source of glutamate. There was a question, and this came from Shahrul Nizam. There's always a difference between natural glutamate, which we have no issue with it, and there's the synthetic MSG, which is synthetic glutamate, which is MSG. So the question is, does synthetic MSG give any different effect on health compared to natural derived glutamate? So maybe you can answer that one.
Okay, so actually I share with you the slide before. Our body wouldn't differentiate that because chemical reaction, because I'm a chemist, so chemical reaction will happen between the active site. So you have this active site, electron rich region, electron poor region. So these two will react. So that is also happening in the MSG as well. So the MSG, if it go to our body, it will be in the form of glutamate. So our body cannot differentiate. But the beauty of having from the natural source, if you want to have it from the natural source, because it is in a form of matrix, everything is there, many things, and the flavor is different. If you want to test the different flavors, the umami, the glutamate inside for seaweed just now, but you also have that bitter taste, and then that grass-like taste, so you can take it from the seaweed. That is because of different chemical inside there reacting with your tongue and then give you this sensation. But whether it is naturally derived or it is from the synthetic part, it is actually the same, right? Because I'm a natural product chemist. Yeah, we are well known about this thing. That's why actually other my friends as well, we start to write at Facebook because people are saying about these herbs. You want to take the herb, you don't want to take the medicines because medicines, they are synthetic and then they can cause harm. These natural things are safe, so you can take it. They don't know the most poisonous thing in the world actually come from nature. So it came from a frog. So it is taken from the frog. You have the curare as well. So this orang asli kan, they have the dart. They put it there. So the dart contain alkaloid, which is can inhibit or can affect the muscles. So they just shoot to the animals and then the animal paralyzed. So that is another examples of chemical which is actually from nature. It obtained and very poisonous. So there is no different. I think toxicological people, they know that the dose make it different. So you take a higher dose, so it will cause harm. You take a lower dose, it wouldn't give you any effect like that. And the other things, as I said, if it's come to food again, there is no such thing that wrong, toxic or non-toxic. And perhaps our, the potato is as well. If you see the potato, some part of it start to become green. So that is actually where the toxic chemicals start to build up. The purpose of this one, because the potato is start to bercambah kan, they start to I forgot the terms. So it is a protection for the potato, so not being taken by any predator. But we are human being, we want to take it. Animal wouldn't eat it. So you just cut that side and remove, because there is a solanase chemical inside there which can cause itchiness. It is actually the same chemical that you can see in brinjal. So some people, they are allergic to brinjal. When they start it, they will still start itchy at their mouth. So that is because of that particular chemical. So food as well, they also have other toxic things, but it again depends on your body, whether you can accept it or you cannot accept it. So you have to know your own body, okay?
Thanks for sharing about brinjals and how it makes my lip itchy every time I eat it. Now I know what's the chemical compound behind it and what's the culprit. But speaking of the effects of food chemistry and how it makes our body react, there was a question by Lim Fang Yin. A common belief around me is that eating MSG makes us thirsty. Is there some truth to this belief?
Okay, so actually, yeah, but that is because of the using of MSG at very high concentration. So when in a very high concentration, what will happen? Our tongue will become saturated. So when the tongue becomes saturated, you cannot distinguish between the umami taste and the salt. The salt, which is the sodium, is actually the culprit that cause us to feel, thirsty. That's why if you go to fast food like KFC or McDonald's, so they will provide you with carbonated drink. So the carbonated drink is actually a good complement between that MSG rich food and the carbonated drink, because when you take carbonated drink, it is an acidic. You have carbon dioxide there, so the carbon dioxide is acidic. So it can help to remove the sodium from your tongue, so the thirsty will dismiss faster compared to if you take orange or plain water. So next time if you go to McDonald's, you just want to enjoy, just take the carbonated drink, but don't consume it every day. All right, so moderation, of course.
All right, moderation is key. Even if it's MSG or sugar, I think everything comes in a balance as well. Speaking of balance, we have one last question, and I'm coming back to the question to Hari Nash. Now, the balance has always been debated. There's always scientific papers that say MSG is safe, and even until today, I'm quite sure there are still people out there claiming certain things about MSG being cause of some body, I don't know, allergy, sensitivity, and some of it might be a psychological effect of it. I think Harinesh wanted to ask your opinion. Why is there still this variation? Why until today there's still this debate about MSG and there's still variation in results, although both are scientific? Just maybe a quick comment. I think you covered a lot in the earlier slides, but maybe just to recap briefly, why is there still variation?
Okay, I think there is no such variation in the data if it is a true scientific, means that the experiment been designed correctly and all the procedure been followed correctly, they will obtain the same result. The one that actually get the variation is because that is a flawed science. Flawed means it is poorly designed. The concentration is too high, and the way the MSG been given is ridiculous, because we didn't inject MSG on our skin. It's actually we consuming it, and bear in our mind, our body, because we are, we are from thousands of molecules combining together. So the different body are different based on the genetic code. So they're going to respond differently. So when scientists actually, when they give a conclusion, they have to make sure that the data that they obtain is actually 90% and above. When it is 90% and above, means that it is safe. All right. So there's, of course, you have 10% which is actually beyond the overall graph, but that is still human being. We still consider them to be there. It's just like, now we have a vaccine situation, right? Of course,
Yes.
the effectiveness is 97%, but 3% will still get that particular side effect. So that is why still some variation can be obtained, because our body, we have different chemistry inside our body, different due to different genetic code and different lifestyle. Because some of the my friend, of course, they encountered when they were at hometown, their mom cook, they cook with this the food with MSG, but the diet was very, they have everything in their food. They have vegetables, they have the meat, protein, everything. But when they started going to the university, they didn't consume vegetables. But vegetables is very high in antioxidant, helping you to remove all of the toxic things and then excessive things, so your glutathione wouldn't work so hard. But when they went to the university, they are only taking, Maggie, and then they start to say that Maggie is the culprit. It's not the Maggie. It's because you're only taking the Maggie. You didn't take with other food. If you take with vegetables, it wouldn't harm you. So when it started to do that, you try to eat something continuously, so that will change the physiological function of your body. So when you start to take MSG again, that will cause the effect. So above all, you start to correct back your body, take care of your health, take everything in moderation. Don't leave vegetables from your diet. That is actually my very constant is I always take vegetables. If I didn't manage to take, because we are sometimes very busy, so I just
Mm-hmm.
blend vegetables and drink it three times
Mm-hmm.
once in a day. That is enough already to cover back the toxin. The toxin is not only from the food that we take, it's from the environment, from the one that we inhale, carbon monoxide, everything. So you need to take care. If you understand this fundamental, I think there wouldn't be problem for you to take any food. So I don't diet. I didn't take any, I didn't dismiss any food from my diet. As long as I like it, I will take everything. And yeah, of course, yeah, moderation again is the key.
And for that, I think I forgot to mention in your introduction that you're also a proud mom of two. I think you
Yeah.
also cook your own food, and I'm quite sure being a mom, you are also a scientist, but also you're a mom. And I think to a lot of the audience out there who prepare their own food, I think if you are trusting something that puts in the food of your kids and your loved one, I'm quite sure that's a very strong testament about how much you believe that the food or MSG itself is not something to be concerned or to be overly worried about. So with that, there was one comment I think is from your friend Sherlyn Uy, kesian doctor, our spice level is a bit too high. That's a joke about us putting too much chili on everything. And I think this is also a fun one. This topic makes me thinking of cooking later for iftar. And I think during the month of Ramadan, thank you so much, despite you having to fast. Really, thank you so much for spending your time and your energy, having to explain all these facts about MSG and what is not true about MSG. And for those of you who has been with us since the beginning, Dr. Fatima also has a Facebook group, which is Makmal Makanan. So if you feel like today you don't have enough of knowledge from Dr. Fatima, please follow her channel or her group on Makmal Makanan. And you can ask her, I think you're really active in the social media realm. And I think people here who missed the session can always ask the question later on through the Facebook group as well. So that's a shout out to your group as well, Dr. Fatima. And also a shout out to everybody here. Do like the YSN ASM Facebook page or Science Cafe KL Facebook page to follow more exciting sessions like this in the future. So with that, thank you so much, Dr. Fatima. Anything that you want, the closing message to end today's session?
Yeah, I think there is no, because I think I covered everything from
Yes.
the question and the slides. So I was preparing the slides last night actually to finalizing to make sure that the concern on the scientific part is actually there. So of course, those who are a scientist there, you can read everything and make sure the source of the information that you got is correct, right? So you can deliver correct knowledge to the layman people, because we are responsible of doing this.
Mm. Understood. And thank you so much for doing what you can to create more awareness about true science, breaking debunking about myths and breaking pseudoscience. And hopefully, I like your picture showing people are seeing through a a door, a small little hole on the wall, and making judgment, broad statements, and overgeneralize. Well, the science is out there, the international regulatory body is out there. Just Google and you'll find the truth behind, in this case, MSG. And with that, thank you so much. Hope I don't just take up too much of your Saturday afternoon. And thank you so much, Dr. Fatima. Thank you so much to all the audiences that we have here today. And for those of you who have been following us on Facebook, do stay tuned for our next Science Cafe KL. Next month's topic, we'll be talking about security and personal ID technology. And it goes by the name of RFID, and how RFID is changing the way we live our life. So again, stay tuned for more information about Science Cafe KL. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. For those Muslim friends out there, happy breaking fast after this during the month of Ramadan. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.